Check. Welcome to the If You Don't Know podcast. I'm your host, Frank.
I'm Ken. What's goody? How's everybody?
What's up, man? How you doing, bro?
I'm making it. How you?
I'm good. We back, man. We took a little break last time, man. Now from the last time we was here and had some good discussions, which will come out soon. But now we back and we're gonna have another tough discussion. I guess last time we talked about. I guess the gist of it was you really don't know what you got till it's gone.
Of course.
With the untimely demise of the young lady we went to high school with, and then now we got Mac Miller's situation
that's
here.
a much more public thing, so obviously everybody is more inclined to have their opinions on it. And it obviously had us thinking, a couple things, trying to figure out the best way to do this. Like, realistically, what is this thing called life? Like, I mean, you got people making billions, millions of dollars, and obviously I'm sure he didn't intend to kill himself, but in the same regard, unfortunately, the ODs and all this, like, realistically, what's happening? You getting all this kind of money, but the drugs is still controlling people's lives in a lot of regard. And that had me thinking from a perspective, and I just couldn't really think about it, because I smoke weed, I do a little whatever the case, and that's just to chill. But realistically, these people is getting this kind of money and they addicted on heroin and oxy, and we can reference Demi Lovato. Obviously she went through something similar recently, and it was kind of just interesting. Like, damn, like, I get it to an extent, all the pressure of being famous, but realistically, like, this is impacting little Timmy, around the corner, as well as it's impacting, the biggest pop star or rapper that there is. So that just was messing with me, and I was, I had to think about a couple things, but I was curious your perspective on, what is it? What do you think is actually happening? Like, why do people actually, I guess OD? Well, obviously you're not intending OD, but it gets to a point where you taking so much drugs that just your tolerance is built up that you had to take that much to OD. Like, how do you think you get there?
Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of it got to do with like mental health too. Like, true, nowadays,
true. That makes a lot of sense.
Like, I think mental health plays a big part in it, and then people start to self-medicate.
Gotcha. Elaborate a little bit though. What mental health? What is that? True to me.
Just like trying to mask what you're going through at the time. And like you said, with people making millions of dollars, but they still got to take as much drugs so they OD. It just goes to show like how much. Money don't make people happy.
Very fair.
And
actually, it was something you just said that kind of had a flashing thing. This has been my underlying thing. This is obviously our third as of now.
Yeah.
So realistically, I've been preaching, be who you are, obviously be real, whatever you want to call it. And you just hit on something. Like, doesn't matter how much money you have, or it doesn't matter what you're doing, the cloud or whatever the case. If you're not truly being true to self, or if you're not really being happy, I think that's what a mental health break is becoming. Because realistically, if I was concretely who the fuck I am, I can't have that perspective because I'm not there, but I would think I wouldn't care so much, or I wouldn't need to mask myself, or, to have this little facade or a bubble that you create, because realistically, that's all the drugs are doing for people.
Yeah.
And if you think about it on a bigger scale, how can you be true, or how can you be real to who you are and still be the image, or, portray whatever it is that they want you to be? And when you think about that, obviously they got to be living 2, 3, 4 different lives.
Yeah.
Because we as fans, we think we know these people. Like, we think we know our favorite rappers. Now, granted, some of the music, they might portray some of their actual lives and that. But we have no idea who these people actually are.
And then you got to think, too, they're trying to be relatable to so many different people.
True. So they're actually portraying an image, and now having to live by that false image. Yeah. So I think we might. Dr. Phil, come see me. I think we got to the root of everything.
Look, and it is funny because I think, what was I watching? The Joe Budden podcast when he was talking about.
Shouts to Joe, man. Yeah. We didn't see him come along.
You was the you introduced us to but
I know depressed Joe.
Yeah, that's what. You don't not only know him, but that's the one you like.
Touche, but don't figure. Ironically, what we just said, I feel like I know him, but I don't. Yeah. But anyway, we'll get back to that.
Exactly.
My bad, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you good. He was saying that he was asking, like, he was basically throwing shots at Eminem, but he was like, why the fuck is he always wearing those Air Maxes?
Okay.
And then it was like, well, statistically speaking, I guess that was the more acceptable shoe for him. But that's why he kept calling him in his podcast Mr. Megastar Man, because if you've been paying attention, Eminem is not really on the wave that a lot of these younger artists on. But exactly. But I was saying that to say that what was the point I was? About them putting on the facade and trying to be appealing to so many people. Mm-hmm. So Joe Budden was equating it to like how a president would they're very picky about their PR is very picky about like what color tie they wear.
Of course, absolutely. Like I remember when I first learned the psychology of the way we perceive stuff.
So he was like, that's the same way with like these mega stars. With Drake, like saying with Drake, like how he's not actually
puts on a certain type of, because I remember he was at a basketball game. Now, granted, he was paying homage and it was commemorative, but I think it was the Florida shooting. Unfortunately, you remember the high school shooting? I can't remember the school at the moment, but he had on their jersey. No, actually, my apology. It was the hockey team from that school, and he had on that jersey at one of the games or whatever, and it was such a big hoorah.
It's science, man.
But realistically, I'm sure somebody statistically thought, how many more followers and fans can we get? And when you think about that, like, it must be, the biggest kind of stress, because ironically, all my life, I never aspired to be famous or popular, I got my little clout, being who I was, whatever the case, but I never aspired to be an image. Because it is so hard to live by what you want me to be versus who the fuck I want to be. Yeah. And when you think about that, ironically, that full circle, that has to be the drug use.
You find yourself, instead of living life, you're trying to live up to this expectation that other people.
And when you think about that, that has to be taxing. Yeah. Because we're doing it on the minute scale. Obviously, we think our lives are bigger than they truly are. That's our egocentrism. But realistically, we're very minute on the bigger scale of what's actually happening in this world. Yeah. But when you think about people who actually have a little place or, fans or whatever you want to call it, they have a impact. Like, these people have millions of people who die and breathe on different stuff that they say, endorse, da-da-da. I can't imagine what that must mean, because I get stressed when I'm not being true to self and I'm at work, or we had a similar conversation, whatever the case. If I had to make money, I would do it this way, but if I'm not going, But so I'm trying to think, like, what it must be to have when you walk out your door, thousands of people want to talk to you, see you, hold your hand, take a picture. Like, you can't truly ever be who you want to be. Yeah. Because if I'm not living up to your standard, then you won't like me, and then obviously that's tied to their money, I'm sure. But, like, how do you think he truly got to the point where it was an OD type of situation? We understand the mental health. Yeah. Obviously, it was to a degree that, he probably did the self-medicating. But even, some of our biggest stars, fans, some of the biggest celebrities that we're fans of or whatever the case, they do the drugs or whatever the case. And obviously, to an extent, we have no idea what they're actually doing. Mm. But how the fuck are they, like, OD? Like, how do you get to that point? Yeah. Like, I just don't get it, because, as I said, well, again, my life is completely adverse to what I'm sure they're living. So do you think that stress is really, like, conflicting them or making them that overbearing so that they have to, I guess, go into a fantasy world? Or because
I don't think it's pretty... I think stress plays a part in it. Okay. But I really think it's a snowball effect.
Okay,
and
what's the first domino?
I guess trying it.
Okay. Okay.
And then you try it, and then... You don't necessarily chase the high you got when you first started. You chase the high that you got when you first liked it.
That's tricky.
So, you know what I'm saying? Because the first time I got high, I was fucking terrified. I called the ambulance.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So, and then I smoked weed, and then I liked it. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then you chase that high.
Got you.
And then once you chase that high, your tolerance gets higher. So you gotta keep going. You gotta get more.
I respect that.
Do it more.
Let me ask this: would you ever see yourself transitioning into anything harder than a weed or a liquor?
No.
No, why is that?
No, because I wouldn't do it. It's not my thing.
But just imagine if I can offer you the most euphoric, lovely experience that you can imagine. Obviously, I'm sure you like to partake in your fair share of whatever. But imagine if that could be amplified. You would never want it?
Prior to experience or prior to smoking weed, I would say, because I was scared of it and I seen what it do to people.
Okay, that's fair.
As a consumer of marijuana now, I would say I know myself, and I'm not getting hooked on no other drug.
Okay,
I've learned myself, and I think being self-aware is the biggest thing. And I have what's that type of habit? Addictive personality, definitely. Whether it's marijuana, whether I've abused alcohol before, and not to the extent where, and I'm not talking to the extent where it ruined my life or something like that. But to the point where it's you find yourself doing it more than recreationally, where you're just doing it to, like I said before, mask certain things. Whether those issues are serious or extreme, or whether those issues are, man, fuck, I hate my job.
Fair. But
you know what I mean?
Think about that on the grand scheme. Any issue that you have, and you pretty much amplify to think that it's the most, biggest thing that's going on. Yeah. Then you look back like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah, I'm such a pussy.
Dealing with it, unfortunately, it's the rock on your back type of thing, or whatever you want to call it. But ironically, I've had an interesting experience with the drugs. I partake. I remember calling you one night on a particular drug. It was fairly interesting. Yeah, and I love that because the moment that you said you chased not that necessarily that experience, but that the moment that you felt like how you liked it or how you felt about doing the drug. I've done that, and I remember I went down a rabbit hole to an extent. Yeah, I was on whatever the case, and let's make sure that's clarified. It was no junkie drugs, so obviously don't get fucked up. Don't ever. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so realistically, I think I was more or less the mindset or the perspective that it gave me, because I'm very insightful. I like to have self-awareness, retrospect, introspective, whatever you want to call it. And I was chasing how deep can I get into my mind. Which got me into, because I remember the first time, and it was cat's out the bag. I was doing Molly at the time, MDMA as it's called, and obviously most people were doing it at the time. It was very popular. And actually, I want to touch on that too. I'm going to just throw that out there. I'm going to get back to what I was saying. But realistically, I remember the real reason I was doing Molly because I heard it in my music. But we'll talk about that in a second. Realistically, so as I said, I was doing whatever I was doing. Yeah, because as soon as I said it, I was like, yo, why the fuck did I do that? Yeah. Because I heard it everywhere. Yeah. And I felt like I was out the loop if I wasn't. But anyway, as I said, we'll definitely touch that in a quick second. But I experienced it. It was lovely. I had a great night. You know what that drug kind of does to you. Obviously, if you have a young lady, So, had fun, whatever the case. But I remember the next time I did it, it wasn't the same scenario, the same type of surroundings or atmosphere. So she wasn't, as into that kind of let's wild out, have some fun, whatever the case. So that time it was more, let's talk. And I remember the first time I was actually able to speak without my ego kind of perceiving stuff for me and me just actually saying stuff. Yeah. And that was kind of like a rude awakening because I've been revering how I loved myself when I was 18, Realistically, I went into like, oh shit, I can be me without anybody judgment, fear, or, any of it. And it was so liberating. But in the same regard, I kept chasing it. And the more and further you get down that hole, you like, where am I going? Like, I found myself. I was very introspective, as I said, whatever the case. But nigga, it got lonely. Like, I was out there, doing drugs by myself. Like, that's when you know you got a problem. When you up in the night and you having these deep, complex thoughts, but who you doing this with? Like, what's the point? And especially the next morning, I will forget it all or not be able to even closely experience it. What was the fucking point? Like, I lived in a fairy tale at that moment in which I was going to change my life. And at the time, I had some shit going on. So I felt like I was going to do this, I was going to do that. And then I thought about, like, what the fuck? Like, what was the point? So I think about that, as you were saying, you don't necessarily want to start because, the start's cool and you have your fun times, whatever case, but nigga,
you like it
or this or what? Yeah. And then let's not even talk about the financial burden.
Yeah.
Because realistically, we're talking 60G type shit.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about the weed. The weed is a different thing because obviously, you got to pay for whatever case, but nigga, paying for designer drugs, if you will, with that same $15, $10 G of weed. Now, of course, you $60, $70, $80 of that.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Nigga, what? Yeah. But I said all of that again to say, realistically, I can to a degree understand. I just never understood how you get to that OD aspect. Yeah. But I do want to bring back that revelation that I had. Realistically, why was I so impacted by other people's music or what was popular, what was cool. Yeah. Because
I think, and hold that thought. I'm gonna just say this real quick. I think it's because we take for granted the power of advertisement.
Touche.
So and then I think I was listening to something where it was a lady. She said, if you don't believe that America or society has taught us to be inferior to white people, then you don't believe in the power of advertising.
I mean, we could talk about that.
Yeah, but what's interesting is the point that she was making was the visual of Jesus Christ.
Well, of course.
Yes, that's what she was talking about.
Skin is bronze and hair with wool.
But then is that the pale motherfucking blue eye?
But obviously, we won't touch that.
I think that's what it is. Like if you listening to your favorite artist, you know what I'm saying?
Very interesting.
Your favorite artist comes on and they talking about Molly this, Molly that, how good it felt, and you may
experience he had on it.
You may mention to this earlier where you feel like just certain aspect of that artist, things that he talk about, you feel like you might know him, and that he feels like you. You know what I'm saying?
I see it.
And then he started talking about.
I see it. We identify with that image, and truly half the time they're not even really living that image, but this is what they're giving. Well, obviously. Think about all the young kids on the streets selling ... robbing, stealing. Anywho,
and that's interesting. That's an interesting point because one of my homeboys who I grew up with, I lost my virginity and I got the gall to do it because he was telling me that he was fucking all these bitches.
Well, let's just stop there really quick.
So I was like, oh, I'm the only one that ain't fucking.
Well,
so I remember it. I ended up having sex, and I asked him. I was like, I don't think you had sex. I said, what color? What color is pussy? You know what he told me?
What?
Brown.
Okay, that's the outside.
You ain't fucked nobody. Shut the fuck up.
That's
man.
hilarious.
And that's why I ended up
peer pressure aspect.
Exactly. And it's not even peer pressure because they didn't pressure me to do it. He was, it was somebody who I hung out with, and he always talked about he was fucking this bitch, and I'm like, dang, okay, I ain't did it yet, so.
Well, I'll bring that full circle real quick.
Yeah.
We once lived together, of course.
Yes.
You had your fun. We won't touch on anything, but obviously you've experienced. I remember, I'm not about to be the only nigga in this crib. I hear ... around the corner. Ain't no way I'm about to be in this bitch with fucking Pamela tonight. Pamela Henderson. But anywho, we won't talk about that later.
I've never heard of that before.
Really? That's cute. But just think about that. Because this is actually kind of, I guess you would say, it's obvious, but god damn, it's so deep to me.
Yeah.
Because you touched on advertising, and ironically, the father of advertising, the way that we ever started advertising, the way it was ever even invoked, was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud obviously is a psychoanalysis. He was big into the psychological movement. He pretty much has a lot of founding principles of psychology. Mm-hmm. Ironically, his nephew took that and wondered how he can make money. And it's called groupthink. So if you can get a group of people to think a certain way, if you're not doing it, you're now not culturally accepted, and you have to conform to doing it. Mm-hmm. Ironically, bring it full circle as to what we're talking about in our hip-hop music, or obviously some of the movies, or whatever the case we're watching. This is what we're watching. This is what they're telling us. This is what we need to do. Now you're not cool if you're not popping this or selling that or doing this or have these type of clothes, shoes, jewelry, this, that.
Yeah.
How the fuck were we so controlled? Really, when you think about that.
They taught us to like what's in front of us.
What instant gratification. Motherfucker. We won't talk about that.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That is completely our next episode. But
that's crazy how that just came.
Not because obviously we touched on it a little bit, but I just was trying to think how did I even get here? Then I thought about obviously some of the impact
but you gotta look. It's in the music purposely.
Ding ding.
Because like you said, they not being taught that around the corner.
Of course not.
You know what I'm saying?
You crazy?
And they're not exposed to the sexuality that we're exposed to at a young age either.
Tricky. And
you know what I'm saying?
And then you diseases either.
Exactly. And then when you go into the suburban areas, if you take deeper, they don't have liquor stores on every corner.
Nigga.
You know what I'm saying?
You go to an actual hood.
It's liquor store on every
cash spot, liquor store, like anything to keep you in
funny
debt.
thing is, how are they all in business? It's fucking 10 of them within 10 feet of each other. But they're thriving.
But
I went to Detroit.
Okay.
I went back to Detroit, 2 weeks ago. The same people, the same individuals who worked in the stores, who ran them, the Chaldeans down there, they still there.
But they live in 2 blocks over. I mean, two counties over in the motherfucking firm.
The same individuals who I used to walk to the corner store with after school to get peaked. The same guys own those spots.
Now think of what they're truly profiting off of. Our detriment.
Exactly.
The same guy that was buying all those 40 ounces of Mad Dog 2020s or 211s is now sleeping in the gutter right next to their store.
Or has diabetes.
Or died of alcoholism, hepatitis,
jaundice. Yeah.
When you really think about, motherfucker. All right, so just to touch, obviously you know what we'll be talking about next time, because this is going much deeper. You want to talk about a rabbit hole? I think we have just approached something.
That's awesome.
But realistically, I definitely want to bring it back to Mac, because that was one of the things that obviously sparked this conversation. And I was thinking, for him to have such an impact, do you think that he can now reverse the perspective? Because he had such a... Now, granted, obviously, they love you more when you die, so we're not going front. And, he had his fans, he had a nice following, whatever the case, but now he's the best rapper in the world, of course, because his untimely demise, as we covered. But do you think his impact of ODing at such a prime, because he was literally 26. And I really want to touch this really quickly. This was one of the most surreal things that I've ever heard. As we talk about the music, I believed in Mac Miller in this regard, because one of the most famous lines that actually impacted me most when I first heard he died, he said, for anyone who sells me drugs, make sure don't mix it with that bullshit. I'm trying not to join the 27 Club. 27 Club is all the stars that died at the age of 27. Janis Joplin, Basquiat, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse.
And he died at 26.
He died at 26 of a drug overdose, as he told people, please don't cut my shit.
He spoke it.
Spoke it into existence. So when you think about how deep that could truly get, my God.
Or did he speak it into existence? Or, sometimes... Like I said, I have no idea what Mac Miller was going through.
Okay.
But I know from personal experience, sometimes you going this route, and it's only gonna be one outcome if you don't slow up.
Why not?
What do you mean? Why not?
Why is it that you at that time aren't able to stop?
That's what I was about to say. You don't care.
Ding.
You don't care.
Interesting.
At all.
And obviously that goes to the full circle of
and I'm not
health.
Yeah. And ding ding. Yeah. That's perfect. And I'm not saying that was his.
Of course, but just as a generalization.
Because and it goes back to what Will Smith said too, and he was like, you in order to be successful, you got to have the power of discipline, being able to see something, make a decision, and make the best decision for yourself. Have the discipline to make the best decision for yourself.
Every time.
And he give examples. Yeah, I love chicken and it smells so good, but I got this salad here. How much do I love myself in order to take the salad over the chicken?
Let's stop there.
Yeah.
Self-love, self-worth, self-awareness. Because as you just said, obviously I don't care enough about myself to stop. Yeah. Why is that? And obviously, as we just covered the mental health, some of the pressures that we get from conforming to I had no idea that we could even touch any of this. I am extremely excited as to what's to come. Because realistically, obviously it impacted everybody a little differently if you're a fan and or if you happen to use some of the recreational drugs or if you're just a fan of the culture. You understand that obviously we lost somebody at this moment, and it was very impactful just from the age perspective. He's younger than us. Yeah. Just think about that. That was a kid that he would have been a freshman that we might have picked on while we were seeing this type of thing. Yeah. And now, unfortunately, he's not here. Yeah. And that actually hurts, because to me, anybody could go.
It could be anybody. Yeah.
I just read that he had a net worth of $14 million. I got a net worth of $14. Yeah. How the fuck is he holding on so tight? How am I holding on so tight that he unfortunately wasn't? Yeah. If you really think about that, that's actually scary from a lot of degrees. Yeah. And I promise the viewers listening, for real, I'm going home to think about a couple of these things. Yeah. Because that is very impactful for who you want to be, where you're trying to go, and what the fuck are you actually dealing with? Because truly, I don't think we're dealing with most of the stuff that we got going on in our life. We push it aside. We mask it. We drink. We smoke. We
Yeah.
do these drugs as we
Ditto.
obviously just covered. And then realistically, we look back like, oh shit, this shit's still here. Because I remember getting fucked up, nigga, having the best night, going to the club, and then I wake up like, shit, I'm still broke. And I spent the money that I shouldn't have at the fucking spot that I should have been.
Oh my God.
But I had a ball.
But
now I'm back to reality.
For 2 hours.
For 2 hours.
Now you're deeper in the hole.
Now, can I borrow $10? I need to get to work so I can such and such. Or can I eat such and like? Think about that.
And that's me, man. And you gotta be able to be man enough and tell the truth and not lie to yourself. And you know what I'm saying?
Talking to you about it and just looking at you across from me, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I do that shit.
Realistic.
Spend money that I don't have on
shit that you don't need,
or drugs. You know what I'm saying? Just so I can mask the problems that I'm going through currently.
Absolutely.
In order to
and
come down from the high and feel worse than I did because now I'm not high anymore.
Nigga. And then now you gotta go get high again, and now I gotta spend more money that I don't fucking have to get high so that I can hopefully feel good for this instant.
Yeah.
Now, obviously we touched a little bit. What the fuck is the solution?
Yeah.
That's the bigger
I
thing.
think the solution with me, I think I'm doing good because I acknowledge it.
Fair.
I acknowledge it.
I need to stop you there though, because I've been a very self-aware since obviously we probably have met.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I still make some of those fucked up mistakes because, as you said, you get so deep, it's like, fuck it, why turn back now?
Yeah.
So realistically, you acknowledge it, and I respect that. I'm obviously not negating that in any way. But what are you doing to actually change it? That's the real motivating factor.
Absolutely nothing.
Dang.
Absolutely nothing.
Now, when you think, because the acknowledgement, all right, I'll put it this way. It's like,
because I'm gonna tell you my train of thought, which is horrible. And like I said, I'm very aware. Like I'm all right. As Joe Budden saying, old Joe, the president.
Not this new nigga.
I'm all right with everything that's wrong with me. Which is a double-edged sword, which is bad.
I don't want to talk about
it. It's probably stubborn, but
I thought that intro was made for me. I thought he wrote that song for me.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, we'll talk about that.
But
I guess what it is, I'm aware, and I know I need to make a change.
Well,
now it's not, and here's the thing. I'm saying I need to make a change for personal.
Of course. I mean, obviously.
I'm not on anything, you know what I'm saying? I smoke weed.
No, don't get fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, trust me. Like, we still grown men. Never, but obviously what's understood doesn't need to be explained in that regard. So, but this is what I have for you, because as your friend, brother, whatever you want to call us, realistically, I got to start challenging you to be better. Yeah. Because how the fuck can we incorporate the same space? I'm aspiring to be that, and I'm not holding you to a similar standard.
Yeah.
To call you my equal. Because realistically, I don't like to fuck with a lot of you niggas, and no disrespect. Well, all disrespect, my apologies. But realistically, because you not who the fuck you supposed to be or who you say. But anyway, we already touched that. But realistically, for me to you, I challenge you to take one step. I don't give a fuck what you change that's going to actually impact it. What can you do one step moving forward, and obviously not this dramatic, so that you don't become Mac Miller? And obviously, that's not that dramatic. It's a symbolism behind that. But realistically, how do you make sure that you don't go too far down a rabbit hole that obviously should never equate to any kind of death in any regard or health issues? But realistically, why fuck up your situation just because you don't want to deal with today? Because today is going to be tomorrow, and it becomes today again. So realistically,
I think I make a lot of change. My thing with substituting it is filling my time.
Okay. Now,
and I guess
hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I do. I got so many other, like a lot of stuff that I try to fill my time. Whether it's podcasts, whether it's editing, whether it's writing, whether it's clothing line stuff, whether it's
clothing.
Yeah, I do have a clothing line actually.
What could that have been?
Shameless plug, man. Parachute Panda, we the culture. Follow the @Parachute Panda. Go shop. Got www.parachutepanda.bitcartel.com.
Just in case I
awesome
got mean jacket coming out this season. I'm just letting y'all know. Maybe my bad. I had to shout that out real quick. Look, we gotta pay the bills. But realistically, okay. So obviously you're filling your time, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I understand. We're open.
Realistically, it targets a lot of things for me. Because I know, and I'm very self-aware, and I'm actually trying to move towards changing some of those things. But why do you think at times you get stagnant? What is it about maybe the situation or your perspective, your mood, your feeling?
Here's the thing. I'll be completely candid with it. It's not even... I'm not even going to give you a bullshit answer and try to be politically correct.
Oh, that's cute.
It's because I'm not ready to stop.
Oh, okay. So, to be completely honest, then fuck it. Like, I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because if you can honestly tell yourself you're not ready to stop, why lie to yourself and act like you are going to? Well, that you need to.
I do.
Well, okay.
I'm still self-aware of that.
So now that's you to you.
Exactly, and that's why I said for personal reasons.
Fair. Okay.
That's why I said I want to stop for personal reasons. Not that
you know what I respect that.
Yeah.
So, last question. When do you become ready to stop? Because you don't ever want to get to I'm at rock bottom now, I gotta stop.
Yeah.
You should always want to stop before you ever get into there. But unfortunately, most times we never do until we get ran up into that brick wall or however you want to look at it. You hit rock bottom. So realistically, how do you stop before you ever reach that point? And that could be something to think about, of course, because I really,
I think I see what you're saying, because I really don't have a educated answer on it.
Well, of course, that's
but I would just say, like you said, being self-aware, and stop procrastinating.
That's all I ever wanted to hear.
Yeah,
because that's what I truly think that's most of our problem. Because in a lot of regards, I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart that we even having this conversation on the air.
Yeah.
Because I thought 1,000 times that I should do this or I could do that, and I like to talk and that. But I'd have been at the crib like, oh nigga, I need to start a podcast. And I never would have fucking done it. Like, realistically, it's the procrastination aspect.
Yeah.
So, and I don't say, because I look so deeply into myself and I see that, when you said that, there was like red flags all over the place. So realistically, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh no, you good.
But okay, stop procrastinating.
Stop procrastinating and do it. And like Will Smith said, love yourself enough to make a decision that's going to benefit you in the future instead of making a decision that's going to give you 15-20 minutes of satisfaction.
And that's the instant gratification aspect. You can't have the shiny toy that's in front of you if you're trying to inspire to get the the big nice toy,
exactly.
Or whatever you want to call it. And I'll just put this because you referenced Will Smith. I love him deeply in a lot of regards, and I got a couple videos I think I should show you. Yeah. We'll talk about that. But realistically, he said one thing to me, and it always impacted me. His dad, I think he was 8-9 years old, him and his little brother, he told him, see that fence over there? I want it filled up with a brick wall. So how the fuck I'm supposed to make a brick wall? Like, you go figure it out. He told him realistically, you lay the first brick and you lay that brick as perfect as a brick can be laid. You lay the second brick and you do the exact same thing. You look back years later, you got a fucking wall. And that to me has always been everything. It's about making the proper decision every single
marginal adjustment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because realistically, it's not like we that far off. We're not talking like we're not here. We don't know what to do. It's about making the decision at that time to get it done.
Exactly.
And that's the next step. So again, obviously we have definitely delved into quite a bit of stuff, and we will touch this next time. Please follow up with us.
I want to make one more. I want to make a point real quick before we get off. Okay. I was watching the TED Talk, and you sparked this because of what you just said with the brick wall thing. So I was watching the TED Talk. You watch those?
Oh, of course.
I was watching the TED Talk, and he's basically just made the same point you made, where he asked if anybody in the crowd could draw.
Okay.
And a couple people raised their hand, like sprinkles of people.
Gotcha.
So he was like, I want everybody to take this pen and paper and just draw a line.
Okay.
And then they drew a line, and then he put on the screen like this big in-depth portrait.
Oh, okay.
Of something. He was like it's a reach, but if you can draw that line, then you can draw this. You just got to do it step by step.
That's
very respectful. And it was like the marginal adjustments, and you apply that to anything, and there you go. You got your goal. And I think I like that you did that. You challenged me on.
Well, of course.
What are you going to do?
Because
like next steps on that.
We can't truly call ourselves friends. Friends. Yeah, no brothers or whatever you want to call it, like that, right? My nigga.
My brother.
Yeah, right. But not like realistically, you can't call somebody that close to you and be scared to tell them what you think or what you think can impact or help them. Because obviously, you're going to take it whatever you want. I'm not here to try to make you do something. Obviously, you're a grown-ass man. But in the same regard, if I see something that I think, tweak this a little bit, you could be much better in that regard, I think that's my duty. Yeah. Because realistically, why the fuck are we friends then?
Yeah.
And I also, this will be definitely the next segment, but I had this revelation thinking of a few things. anybody in your life. I don't give a fuck who it is. Mother, brother, sister, brother, cousin, best friend, girlfriend. I don't give a fuck. Wife. If they don't make you better, why the fuck would you have them in your life? Think about that. Because if they're not impacting your life in a positive way, why do we hold so deeply on to people that just aren't working?
If you ain't lifting the burden, you probably have. Yeah.
Alright, look, man, that's our time, man. Look, but no, wait, I do want to say this as a closing point.
Yes, sir.
That was awesome. Like, for what you did as far as asking me is like what next steps would be to complete that, because for people who's listening who could be going through the same thing, but they don't have nobody to talk to openly about it, they just massing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. You take a step, you realize that you have an issue, and then you take one step, you know what I'm saying, to kind of get better and
tweak it a little bit
and turn it around. Marginal adjustment.
And really quickly, ironically, as we touched, unfortunately, if you are going through a couple things, and obviously everybody got something going on, you can live vicariously through us. I'm going to be as open as I possibly can. Obviously, you can see he's going to do the same. So realistically, this ain't you ain't got to worry or guesstimate who we are. We're going to tell you who we are, and if you ever going through anything close to it, talk to us. We got the If You Don't Know podcast, Instagram. We definitely going to have a couple websites coming up. You're going to be able to talk to us in a lot of different regards because you just hit it. You have no idea what people going through. Yeah. Because truly, we the best of friends, or close, whatever. But I didn't know that to a lot of degrees.
Yeah.
And just touching on it, just a small tweak of a conversation going here to there to that, and obviously we got hit. So realistically, anybody got anything to say to me, I will always be here to listen. I promise that. But anyway.
But that's it, man. That's our time, man. Thanks for listening. It's the If You Don't Know podcast. I'm Frank.
I'm Cam.
And if you don't know,
now you know.